So with Archipelago, that's what we're going to play. These, as I took out my whole army, let's try that. These tokens that I'm going to
throw on the table.
Wow, this is gonna be great. These are our turn order markers. The turn order can stay the same. It's it will change. I'm going to put it under the table, and I'm going to draw out after I hit the camera. I'm going to draw out our tokens kind of randomly, and this will be the first turn order. Is he going upstairs?
You going to the bathroom or something? Maybe.
Alright.
I'm done with this shit.
Heck with the rules. I don't want to learn.
He's got his money. Screw the rules.
He only has 10. Same money we all have. Yeah, I'll just wait for him to get back before I finish explaining said rules to said game. Although I might as well put down one of these thingies so that I can show, like, how we should play stuff. And then I'll take them back up after. I guess that one works. No, that one does not work.
An island.
This one does? Yes. That way when I explain the contingency and all that. Contiguousness. I do have an island. I'm not sure how I'll use that. I wonder if they look all cool in 3D like some of those other games. It's a little bit too far away. But,
I got mini islands.
You've got mini islands?
Well, pseudo islands.
I think on the other side though of the island,
I
it's
have
always
all
like a
the
solid.
mountains.
Remember before you did too? You had that volcano piece, and you ended up being like an iron farmer.
Yeah, anyone
If
who
I
gets
recall-
a piece of iron is freaking. Yeah, you've got the little.
If somebody had like a ton of cattle because we're stealing them from you,
Yep.
Was it you?
I had a ton
I
of
remember we
cattle.
were like negotiating because we kept on having cow emergencies.
What?
The cow crises.
Mhm.
Happened over and over again.
I'm like, all right, I give up trying to do this. I'm cow guy now.
It worked out perfect because you also play a war, and so you kept on taking it from the foreign market, the domestic market,
Yeah.
and then you were like, so now I have all the cattle because I've used them all. Who would like to be able to stand up their rebels today? I got the cows. What are you going to give me? I'll never forget that because we lost so much stuff. I'm pretty sure you were getting iron for cows.
Yeah, I think I was.
It was pretty funny.
Because I think everyone locked me out of getting iron, so I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
No one can have cows.
Of them all. And we had that, because that card stayed on top, nobody bought any of these, so that we had cow crisis 3 turns in a row. I'll never forget that. I was like, I'm screwed, because all I think I had was stone and pineapples. Which, if I end up using these, is going to be a very similar situation.
You got access to iron on one of them.
That's true. That might be the one I picked then.
I don't have access to iron on any of mine.
Oh, that's not fun.
I have access to everything else.
These aren't here permanently. I'm just going to use them for as I explain the rules, so some of the stuff I say makes sense. But it'll also kind of make sense for placement and stuff afterwards.
This will block.
Huh?
This right here is my cat barricade.
Sometimes, though, the cat will go right up on the thing. Yeah, there you go. They love these chairs. As soon as I built them, they took a turn sleeping on each one for the first night. It was very interesting. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to explain the rules first, but the first thing we're going to do is we are going to pick one of these tiles. We start with 3, so I've got 3 of these here. They're double-sided. And we're going to pick one of these tiles as our starting tile.
Okay.
And it might be best to explain the rules before you choose, so you'll know what resources mean and what they do and that kind of thing. You also have one of these cards. This is a hidden objective card. What this means, I'm going to talk about that first, actually. On the top of your card, and we can't show this for anything. We can share a lot of things in this game, but we can't share this. Even if we're negotiating, we can't share this card. We can't trade these cards. The top is what is the condition for ending the game. Not winning the game, causing the game to end.
Yeah.
So if mine said, I don't know what mine means yet, I have to check, but let's say mine said, as soon as the adventure tokens run out in the first pile, or I think it's the second pile is one of those cards.
Yeah.
So I'll be announcing, by the way, when they run out, I'll be like, the first pile is gone, second pile is gone, because it's not on the table. But let's say the card said, when the first adventure token pile is empty, the game is over. What that means is as soon as that happens, you stop the game. You flip your card over and say the game is over.
Okay.
Doesn't mean anyone won. We're going to calculate points. The bottom section of the card is how you earn points. So what that means is there are 4 different ways the game can end, and each of us only know one of them. So we can anticipate that and kind of see what's going on. We can either try to prevent it if we want the game to go longer so we can work towards our goals, or if we think we could win, we can try to make that happen even faster. That being said, we only know a fourth of the possibilities of ending the game.
And bonus points.
Right. We also only know a part of how we're going to earn points in this game. There are 3 other ways to earn points in this game that we do not
Don't know about. Okay.
So once the cards flip over, we'll probably go in turn order to make it easy. We'll tabulate our points afterwards based on the cards. So we'll tabulate each of our cards, get our points. So you could inadvertently, sometimes your card could cause somebody to win because they happen to have the necessary things. Some people don't like this about the game, this hidden aspect. I think it's very, very interesting. It prevents runaway leaders. It is impossible to be a runaway leader in this game.
What it does is, yes, you might think you're winning, but the only way to guarantee you're winning is if you are really far ahead of everyone else on the board before the game ends.
Yeah, or sometimes diversifying can help too, which you want to do a little bit anyway. You want to do a little bit of that. But it's tough because the game is... Some people don't like that. They don't like that hidden aspect because you can't prepare for it. I do like games that have that if they do it well, and this game is one of them that does it very, very well. We've played this a couple times, and it's been fun both times.
Oh, yeah.
So be aware. The top part is what ends the game. The bottom part is the score. There is also this card, which is a victory card. And this is a goal that we can all go for, that we know, and we'll build it. I know that doesn't look like anything to you right now, but I'm going to look it up because I'm not sure what it means. But
Iron.
you have like first, second, and third place of certain something. I think it's most iron.
Yeah, I think it's most iron.
In your, probably behind your thing, and I'll double check just to make sure, but whoever has the most iron will have 1, 2, 3, 4 points, second highest 3, and the third highest will have 2 points, and then if you don't have enough iron, you get nothing.
Nice.
I'm assuming. I'm going to double check. But that's what this is. So this is another one that we all know. So we all know one thing we're going for.
Okay.
We each know another thing that we want to go for. And then there are 3 other things that could potentially cause you to gain more points or not, depending on what you've done. So does that kind of make sense as far as these cards go? There are also these cards, which we'll do something else. We're going to talk about that in a bit. And this is also our turn order track. When we do point scoring, we're going to flip this thing over, and it's going to have points on the back. And we're just going to count our points as we go, if that makes sense. So, I hate using the instruction manual to explain this, but I have to because I want to explain it in the same order. Also, we are playing the short game. This game comes with scenario or objective cards in 3 different time slot settings. This one can go 30 minutes to 120 minutes, depending on the win conditions. There's another one that can go another 30 minutes beyond that, and then there's the longest one is another hour beyond that. So you could potentially play a 3-hour game of this. We won't be. This game will be a little bit longer, however, than is traditional for folks playing this selection, simply because we'll need to read our cards and things, so folks watching or seeing the video will be able to tell what we're doing. Now there are a number of things. So we've got our turn order track, we've got our resource card track, or character card track, I'm sorry, is what it's called. And then we've got some boards on the top. So the first board, and Aaron will keep track of these for us, but the first board is our surplus worker board that shows how many additional workers are available to us. It can also cause, if we have too many surplus workers and not enough work because we're not doing enough work in the game, they can become angry and they start to rebel. The next track is the population track. The white meeple is our population. The black meeple is the rebel population. If the black... This is where this game is mostly competitive, but it's semi-cooperative, because if the rebel ever passes the white meeple, the game ends, we all lose. So we want to be careful of that. That's something we need to... Unless, I'm sorry, if you have the separatist win condition, if the black passes the white, we all lose, but you win.
Okay.
So if you and we'll talk about that. There's separatists, and then there's another one where everybody works together, and if that doesn't happen, it's possible you could win. So just be aware of that. We've got our trend card right here, so we know what our trend is going to be. And then the next track, which already has cubes on it, is our domestic market. This is the food we produce, or the supplies we produce. Okay. And then the other is our export market, which is, what we get from other resources. That's going to fill up too, and depending on what we're doing or what phase we are in, determines which board we can utilize. Okay. So some of those boards we're actually going to be putting stuff on to increase the resources, and then at certain points in the game, we will be able to pull those resources essentially for free. Okay. In some cases, we will have to. When you place your initial exploration tile, so right now we just have the C token. Let's say I went first. I'm going to anyway because I've got this. So let's say I picked this one. I will place it here. You have to border the C in some way. And then afterwards, when we place things, we have to make sure it matches in some way. So if I wanted to place this, I could not place it here. Because the land just kind of stops.
Right.
I could place this one, however, because there's land and water. When anybody after me places, they must place their thing. So if Sue's going to go next, I'll probably place it somewhere where she can reach easy. But you have to border one of the tiles. One
of the tiles that was previously placed.
Yes. So right now, this is a proper placement. Not this way, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This would be a proper placement, or this would be a proper placement.
Yeah.
This would not be a proper placement, even if you had all water or an island. Right. Because we want to try to create a continent or an archipelago, basically. The neat thing about this game is not for everyone because there's slavery in it. That's what the surplus workers are.
Right.
There is slavery. It's not promoting slavery. It's just being historically accurate. The time frame in which this game takes place is between 1492 and 1797. And each turn comprises of about 15 years of development on the archipelago. So they're trying to be historically accurate. That being said, I'm not saying people are being overly sensitive if they're not interested in this game because of that. Just be aware that it has that. So if you're somebody who, that is something that you really, really don't want in a game, this game I would kind of stray away from. Honestly, I think it handles it very well. There's no glorification of it. You just get resources, and we know how that happened because that's what happened in the past. So just be aware of that. So once we do this, we're essentially kind of exploring when we do this. So we've got these tiles. You pick one, you place it, and we want to make sure everything's contiguous. So fields next to fields, mountains next to mountains, and kind of that. Once everybody's placed your first discovered region, you're going to take your ship from the open sea and you're going to put it in your region. So in my case, if I placed this one, my ship would go in here because this is the area that I discovered. That doesn't exist right now. I'm just using this to show other things later. But that's what I would do. I'd put my ship there. I would get an exploration token, which is one of these looking tokens. They look like this on this side. They look like this on the other side. You're going to take that and put it behind your screen. Okay. These are used as resources later. Okay. Essentially freebie resources. Excuse me. Excuse me. And then you take 2 citizens of your color and you put them on the land. So now I've gone in there, I found that place, I've started colonization, and they kind of come off my ship. And I don't cover any icons. So if you notice, this one's a little bit hard to see on there, but that's a steel icon or iron. I've got wood, I've got food. I don't have fish. I have no fish. So we don't want to cover anything yet, right? We're just exploring. We haven't found any of this stuff yet. So you don't cover any icons. You take your adventure token, and then the population will increase by 2 points. So Aaron will move the white to 2. Then you're going to look at your region and see if there's any huts. Mine has 2. Huts are surplus workers. Okay. So I've got my 2 legit people that exist in my realm, and 2 surplus workers. So Aaron would take the gray and move it to the 2. Okay. And that's how we keep track of the different things. Because that's why it's kind of negative. Because essentially I just colonized this place, took those people out of their huts, and put them to work. Or took them and put them where they could someday work. Yeah. So it's not always the nicest thing. On each region except the volcano, the number of sources and huts always equal 5. So if you're having a hard time seeing your huts, look at your resources. So this one has 3. Obviously, there's going to be 2 huts on here. This one has 4 resources, so there's only going to be 1 hut.
Okay.
Now, the volcano's a little bit different because I don't think there's any huts on the volcano. There's resources, but I don't think there's any huts. Because why? Why would anybody do that to themselves?
You didn't say that, and that's the point.
So when you first explore a new tile, you also get to take advantage of some resources. And that without having to actually cover an icon. And because we're placing these first tiles, it is considered exploring them. So after we raise the population, we raise our surplus workers, we've placed our everything, you then get to pick one of the resources. The first resource you pick goes to the domestic market. If there is only one resource, it goes to the domestic market. You don't get it. But in this case, I have 3 choices. Which one don't I want? I can say, you know what, let's put food in the domestic market. I'll give Aaron a token and he's going to put it. The way the domestic market works, or actually both markets work, is you start at the top and you move over to, well, it's going to be his left, but you move to the right on the screen until it's filled, and you move to the leftmost corner and you continue to do that. When you remove, it's the exact opposite. You remove from the rightmost side and you continue, and then you move up. That's important because if you notice, as we get more resources, our population might increase and rebellion might increase. Which is why it's important that we follow that rule very, very strictly. After you've placed something in the domestic market, you look at the other resources, you pick one for yourself, and you put that behind your screen so no one else can see. They're going to know you had it at some point. They might forget, unless you're Aaron. Once we've done that, we will take all of the extra tiles and just give them back to me. I'm going to shuffle everything, put it in our little resource pool back here of tiles, and then we won't be dealing with that until we explore again. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so there are 5 phases in the game. Your screen will actually show you what those 5 phases are. It's disengagement, order of play, population effects, balance of the archipelago, then the longest part of the turn, which is everybody's actions, and the evolution card purchase. These are evolution cards right here, evolution and character cards. And in the order of your choice, you can play 1 action, use a character or progress card, or use a market or port. Markets and ports, what that means, that does not mean the upper markets, although it will affect them. It means a market that you have in play. These are little tiles that you put out.
Okay.
So you can use a market or a port in play. You can play an action. And you can use a character or progress card. When you use them, we're not going to use the copywritten word, but you turn them sideways 90 degrees.
I see.
The reason why I'm bringing that up is because the first phase is disengagement, where you turn them back. Okay. So at the beginning of your turn, phase 1, everybody turns their cards facing that way. If on a previous turn you had a character lying on their side, those are considered rebels. You get to put them back up. They are now available to you. If they're lying on their side, they're like, I don't want to work. Oh, it's too much. But once you've stood them back up.
Smacking the peons.
No, literally. Well, actually, they get mad. They fall over and they don't want to work because they just sit there kicking. No! And any ships or characters that harvested are moved off of the icon. So in this case, if this guy harvested some food and this guy rebelled, and I used a card, I would turn the card. I would remove him off the icon, so it's now free to do again, and I would stand him up. Okay. That is disengagement. Make sense?
Yes.
Next is order of play. Now, this first turn, we're going to go in this order. From turn 2 on, we have the option to bid for order of play. Okay. Winning does not mean you go first. Right. The first thing you're going to do is behind your screen, you've got money. You can choose to bet nothing, but you're going to put it in your fist. Your fist could be empty. And you're going to do this, and you're going to put it out, and then when we're all ready, we're going to reveal. I have 1 Florian. I bet 1, but let's say Aaron bet 1 as well. And nobody else bet. We lose our money. It goes to the bank, and then we do it again until we have a winner. But basically, whoever wins, or in the case of a tie, the money goes to the bank. If you do not win, you don't lose the money. At least I don't think. Let me just make sure I'm not lying. I believe...
I don't think I think if you lose it, you don't lose your money. If you
win, you don't lose your money. It's only if you win. If you tie, you lose your money, you do it again, and then the winner loses the extra money. So you're betting basically to decide the turn order. So it's even better. You can still put yourself first, or choose not to if you negotiate with someone. So let's say Aaron won the bet. Right? He's going to look at these tokens, he's going to take them off, and he's going to say, what order do we want people to go in? He can choose to go first if he wants to, or he can say first place is up for grabs. Who would like to? We're going to have a negotiation round where we can choose to try to influence Aaron to get a good spot on the turn track. He may choose not to negotiate. He is allowed to say, I'm not open to negotiations. This is the order we're going into. It's totally up to him. Does that make sense? You always do. You did that a lot. You had a card that gave you something for that. I can't remember what it was.
I had something that every time it went to bid, the card added, I think I had 2 cards that added 2 to my money pool. So if I bid 0, I bid 4.
That was retarded. He literally got to turn for like 4 turns in a row. He got it. It was crazy. And so you can choose to negotiate anything. We can trade. We can't trade workers and ships. We can't trade action tiles. We can trade money. We can trade resources. And I think, let me see. You can only negotiate during your round during phase 5 actions, with the exception of this thing. And yeah, or determining order of play. Sorry, just and you can exchange, sell, give, or loan anything except your units or your action discs. So you can even promise future favors if you want to. Of course, you cannot ever. The objective card can never be part of a negotiation. That is never revealed until the end of the game. Okay. So then, once they've decided the order of play, it's going to sit there. If nobody wins the bet, then the order of play simply stays the same. The person who won may also choose to keep it the same. So just be aware, our order of play could change a lot. It's not based on where we're sitting on the table. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. We've already talked about the board, so we don't need to talk about that. So the next thing is population effects. So we're going to look for population effects, and there may be none. Like right now, there's not much.
It gets rid of rebels at this point.
It can. So what'll happen is you're going to look at the board. Let's say, if you're there, we do gain another surplus worker.
It's -1 rebel.
Oh, -1 rebel. Sorry. I couldn't see the minus. But basically look at that, and then if you go in the next one, nothing happens. And then if it happens to be in the middle there, you gain... So do you see what I mean? And we're going to calculate it each turn. So if that doesn't move, you might actually get that same roll, might cause the same problem multiple times. Yeah. Regular population typically isn't adjusted unless you're down... Well, that's surplus worker. So if the regular population is in the row of 11 through 20, you're going to gain surplus worker. You might get rebels and workers. Okay? If you have the rebel in there, that doesn't change anything. It's just the white marker that changes something. And then you're going to look at the same thing. You're going to look at our domestic and our export markets. Is the rightmost thing anywhere in there, and you'll adjust accordingly. So that is phase 3. Make sense? And then we have to deal with the balance of the archipelago. Now, if nobody buys these cards, that balance could remain the same multiple times. I'm not going to pull the top one. Actually, I can, because we're going to be dealing with it. The top is what you're dealing with for your export market, the domestic market. The bottom is your export market. Because it's red, during this phase, we don't have to deal with it. We only have to deal with what's not red. This will come up later in the game. But during this kind of crisis round, where the balance may shift, we only have to deal with something that is normal colored. So in this case, we're going to be dealing with the domestic market. What this means is, for 3 other players with their stuff down, I can now start doing negotiations. So the first thing that's going to happen is you can take the cows from the domestic market first if they're there. You do not have to use your own. Okay. So in this case, if I was first player, there happens to be some beef there. So I take one and I can stand up 4 people. So I'm going to say, I only have 2. I'm going to stand up mine, that's for sure. And then I'm going to be like, who else wants to give me something to stand up theirs? And you guys can choose to do that. If it might not come into play, like if there's plenty of beef in the market, it's not going to matter. You can be like, whatever, it's not my turn, I'm just going to stand it up. But if there's nothing out there and you know that you might not have the resources, then you can start negotiating. Either way, if nobody negotiates, if they're like, nah, I don't care, do whatever you want, I'm going to have to stand up other people's tokens. You must stand up the amount that you pay for. So if you don't have enough, you will stand up somebody else's. It's only fair. Ships are unaffected by this. You don't flip ships over, you just ship workers over. Okay? Well,
you ship workers over.
It's so funny. You know what I meant.
I know what you meant. It still does not make that any less funny.
Okay, so...
And the workers will never flip your ships.
Nope.
Now, once every player has had a chance, anything that's left down is considered a rebel. These guys don't contribute to your actions this turn, so you have fewer resources essentially to mess with, or fewer workers to gain resources with. Once they become rebel citizens, they stay rebels until the disengage phase 1 of the next turn. And then what's going to happen is Aaron's going to move that rebel marker up by the number of rebel citizens. Yikes. So that happens. If we have an export crisis, which is this next one, we don't have to deal with this because it's red, but let's pretend it wasn't. We'd need to each of us would need to spend 2 of these. Or I think it's a total of 2 needs to be spent. Let me double check because it's been a while since I've played.
It has been a while.
Yeah, starting with the first player and continuing in order of play, each player will attempt to satisfy the consumption demand of the continent. So in this case, it's 2 iron. Either you can take them from the export market board, if there's anything there, or you can give it from behind your own screen. And if the number of required resources have not been supplied, the rebellion marker will move up 1 again.
Okay, so that one's it's sucky, but it's not as sucky as not being able to fulfill like a big quota.
It depends on where the rebel marker is, because if it's getting close to ending the game and we all lose, then it sucks.
But I'm just saying for quantity-wise, these ones suck more when everyone becomes a rebel and you have to flip them back up.
Yes. Yeah, they're both terrible.
Yeah,
but some are worse than others. Now, some of these will show an event instead of like a export crisis. I don't think any of these are events. Maybe that I could show one. But basically, it doesn't show these markets here. It just shows something like it might say -2 rebellion for every temple that's on the board. In which case, we just resolve that and get the benefits. Events are really nice. They're also really rare. So those are pretty good.
Might be.
And if we don't buy evolution cards, then we deal with this crisis multiple times until we resolve it.
Oh yeah, because once someone's gone, this becomes whatever's on the other side. Right?
Yes, we flip. Yeah. We actually literally take the top cards. So I'm going to actually shuffle this into the middle a little bit because we just saw it. Kind of stick it in here. It'll happen, but it won't happen right away. But yeah, so if we buy an export card, that can potentially change the next crisis we're going to deal with, which sometimes is a good thing because some of these crises are very, very terrible. Does that kind of make sense? And of course, anytime the black marker overtakes the white marker, the game ends. The other thing I wanted to talk about, since we're talking about crises, is those Explorer tokens I showed you, those blue tokens. You can actually turn that in, and you'll get multiple ones if you explore a lot. But you can turn that in for any one resource. The only time you can do that, you cannot do it during negotiations. I can't be like, I'm going to turn that into steel and be like, hey, Aaron, you want some steel? You can't do that. But anytime you're specifically spending one to resolve a crisis or to resolve an action, you can turn in that instead to get it. If you're doing a build.
Negotiate with the tokens?
You cannot negotiate with the tokens, no. Because you'd have to convert them. They can only be converted when you're purchasing something.
I didn't know
so, yeah, if I want to build a temple, I can definitely...
But I'm purchasing his favor.
No, it counts like if you're building like a building or something. It's specifically so you can't hoard those and then just be like, I'm going to win some negotiations with it. It's just keep it a little bit more balanced. So you can use it to any resource requirement for an action, including selling the resource. So let's say you want to, because you can sell a bunch of resources, you can flip it then and be like, okay, you're going to turn this into some iron because I want to sell 3 instead of 1, or instead of 2. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
The next phase is actions. This is the longest phase, and that's where this wheel comes in. This wheel can confuse people, but it's actually not that bad. These are your action discs, so if you notice, you have 5 of them. You start with the first player, and you go in order of play. So you will play one at a time, which is why it mentions that you can only do one action on the thing. And then once everybody's plays one, you can do it again until we run out of discs. It wouldn't be fair if the first player could just hog everything. If you notice, some of these areas have 1 color on them. What that means is you can only do that action once, and each person can do it. Like so, it's like if I put my disc there, it's not going to lock anybody out. The one on the bottom, like the next one down, has multicolors, which means I can put my disc there, and I can put my disc there again if somebody doesn't do that, and that leaves only 2 more spaces for somebody to do it. Make sense? In the water area, again, it's the same thing, 1 color, so you can do that kind of once. And then, but there's also 3 extra spaces, so you could potentially explore twice. Because I think the bottom one's explore. Exactly. You're going to be able to explore at least once each turn.
At least once.
But then if you notice the other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
The resource things have 1, which means if I put mine there, no one else can do it that turn. I think. Wait, no. No, I'm lying. As many people can put there as you can stack discs. I'm sorry. Because if you notice, there's no colors. That's I'm looking at it the wrong way. There's not a 1. There's nothing. So you can put, like, I can harvest food, and then Aaron can harvest food if he wants to. Yeah, sorry about that. So the thing, starting with the bottom, the blue water area is exploration.
Yep.
The one right above it, that kind of brown thing with the money thing, is taxes.
Yep.
The one above that with the baby bottle is reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have right just off to the side of that, it's got like the worker guy.
Mm-hmm.
That one, that's recruitment. That's how you get more workers.
Okay.
And then right above, or right to the right of him with all the stalls, that's the market.
Mm-hmm.
And then right below that is the port. Remember, we can do the market or the port once each turn too. And then everything else from cow to the food is resources. Or resource harvest, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you notice there's the brown one that has the building, that's construction, so you can build your own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right underneath that is that white temple thing, and that's transactions. And then right below that with the purple arrow marker is migration. And I'm going to explain each of these actions, but essentially what you're going to do is you're going to say, where do I want to put, I'm going to have to tell you where to put it because it's far from me, but let's say I might go here and say, I want to do reproduction. I want to do exploration. And then we're going to keep on going until we've placed all of our discs, and then as you complete your actions, you take the disc away.
Okay.
So first you mark your actions you're going to want to do, and then bleh, and then you pull your things. The market and the port work a little bit differently. You don't put your discs there. It's why it's listed as a separate thing. It's not, you put money there instead.
Okay.
So you pay to use them. So just be aware of that. Oh wait, I'm sorry. We have 3 action discs. We do 3, not 5. The extras come from cards.
Okay.
So put the extras behind our screens. Yeah, that would have been a very fast game. As soon as the first exploration token becomes empty, we gain our 4th disc, and then once the second explorer token pile becomes empty, we get the 5th. So we get more actions as the game progresses. And then we know the unlimited action zones are the harvest, and we've already talked about the limited action zones. Port and market receive coins. And you don't place the action disc on the icons. You want to keep those free so people can see them. So we're going to talk about taxes first. And of course, it can only be performed a limited number of times. We want to make sure we're only doing that a limited number of times because it raises the rebellion up. Nobody likes being taxed,
Right.
At all. This is America. We know that because we bitch about it all the time. So what you're going to do is you're going to move the rebellion marker up 1 each time a player performs that action.
Okay.
And sometimes you have to. But for each active citizenship, town, and temple under your control, you remove the number of florins indicated on the tax table from the bank. So your tax table is right here. So if I only have citizens, I'm going to get 1 money, 1 florin for each citizen. I'm going to get 1 money for each ship. 2 money for each city or town under my control, and 2 for each temple. And they're cumulative. So you could look at it and be like, I need 12 money. Just let me know, and I will give you some
This
cash.
is the number of this is a citizen, right?
Yeah, these are your citizens that are under your control. So in this case, if I had tax, I would get 3 money because I don't have any towns or anything. And then with harvesting, what you're going to do, you choose a resource to harvest. So you place your action disc on it, and then when you do it, you remove the action disc. And you deploy as many active non-engaged units across the entire archipelago as desired to an unoccupied resource icon of that type, 1 unit per icon. So in this case, I don't have multiple resource types on this one. Let's say they were over here. I could choose fish or them. I could be like, okay, I'm going to harvest food. Or I could choose, if my ship is over here, I can do that. If I had picked fish. Because you have to kind of pick what it is, but I can do, actually I can do this, I'm sorry. Because I picked food.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to harvest both of these.
Yep. So if I put an action disc on the food, I can put both of these on here.
Okay.
Because it's the same type. If I had put it on fish, but I only have 1 ship, I can only do 1.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
So, and it'll make more sense once you have more land. But yeah, as long as you have multiple resource types and you have multiple people, you can put as many people as you want. Just one person per thing. So I can't in this case be like, really want 2 food, so no, that doesn't work. But if I select food on this one, I get a better deal.
Okay.
And then just let me know what you're taking, and of course you select this when you put your action disc down. The reason why is these guys could move. You might change your mind when you do other things, but as long as they're there when you pull the action disc, you just get your resources based on where you would place your dudes.
Okay.
So you place these guys when you choose the action. And they need to still be there when, I don't know if there's many instances where they wouldn't be, but there could be cards that move them, or somebody might mess with you. But they need to be there when you pull the action disc, that you can get all of your resources. And then you get 1 cube for each meeple on a resource. And they basically stay there until they're disengaged. And the reason why is you can't assign 1 meeple to do multiple things in an entire round. You cannot harvest resources in a region that is controlled by another player unless you have their permission. That's where negotiation comes in again. So if this was actually Aaron's continent, right? He doesn't control it just for being there, but if he had a town and his dude was in the town, he now owns this everything.
Okay.
He's got a settlement here and he's got people populating it.
Okay.
So even if he had a town, he doesn't necessarily own it. Like, I could take over that town if I take the action for it. But if he builds a town and puts a dude on there, which you pretty much do when you build, it's only if you take him off for some reason that you would have to worry about that. But if you had a person on a town, I can't harvest anything. Even though I have people here, I have to ask him for permission, and he's probably going to say no unless I give him a sweet deal. Does that make sense? In the town, looks like they have red roofs. It's a building with red roofs, is town. And resource cubes are in a limited quantity. If a resource is nearly out of stock at the bank, it's possible that the harvest will not yield as many cubes as the number of harvest locations. You cannot, like, make up cubes. If there's just no food, there's no food. There's a drought. Now, the next thing you can do is transactions, which is that one that's right, the green one that's above migration. And you can purchase or sell 1 resource cube either to the domestic or the export market, or from the domestic or the export market. And so what that means is you take the lower right hand most cube to purchase, you take the lower right hand most cube in the chosen resource zone. So for example, if you wanted cattle, you would take the lowest red, lowest right red. And for sale, you just place the cube on the upper left most available space of the corresponding resource. So you can just give it to Aaron, he'll do it. And the price of the transaction is determined by the row. So if you notice on the left, there's all those coins. That's how much you either pay to get it or you earn when you sell it.
Okay.
So like if it's on the top one for fish, for example, to buy it costs you 6, but if you sell one, you get 6.
Okay.
And of course, if you notice, the export market costs more to buy from it, but you earn more to sell to it.
Okay.
But you want to be careful what you choose to sell or buy to, because you want to keep crises in mind. If we only work off the domestic market, we're not going to be able to protect ourselves from crises that happen in the export market.
Okay.
So just be aware of that. So the more stuff that gets there, the cheaper it gets, because supply and demand, they actually do a really good job of that in this game. So, and then you just pay to the bank that money, so you'll just hand it over to me because I got the bank on the chair kind of over here. And then you get stuff.
Okay.
Expiration, you pull your action cube or your action disc from the expiration thing, and I'm going to actually give you this thing, which I just dropped. I'm going to give you this. It's going to have more in here once we've chosen our thing, but I'm going to give you this. And you can choose to take the top one, or you can choose, I think, to take the one below it without looking. So there's some risk. Let me just double check. Yeah, if not, you discard it to a separate discard pile, just give it to me, and you just take the next one. You must take the next choice. You must make this choice without advanced knowledge. So you don't get to look at the back of that to know if there's anything cool in the back. You just look at the top. Does it look good? If not, you get the next one. And it has to stay in the same, like, tray. So you can't be like, let's think. You can't do anything. And then if it's ever empty, we'll just shuffle the discard deck back in there. And so it never will be completely met. The new region must be placed adjacent to at least 2 other regions. And it's very much like Takanoko. I'm going to use mine that I already drew as an example. I can't do this. Let's pretend this was legit land, but you know, I can't place this against this, even though it is the right thing. It's not bordering 2. I can, however, well, I can't because this isn't the right thing. Let's pretend it was. I could place it here. I could place it here. I could place it here. So I can't do that because it's an island, but if it was a legit piece, just keep an idea of the land surrounding and stuff and how you have to place. Does that kind of make sense as far as the having to, you know, match up against 2 tiles? And then now one of the adjacent regions that you're placing, however, has to have at least one of your own meeples or one of your ships. Because you have to be able to move them into that area. So if I'm starting here at the start of the game, and let's say this is Aaron's tile, I could not place it here. Because I don't have anybody to get there. I could place it here, though. Or I could even place it here. Does that make sense? And I'm going to reshuffle these because I just revealed that there's a volcano right there. Okay, hang on. I picked up the wrong
Well, you could shuffle after we choose our tile.
Oh, I'm going to have to anyway, so I'll just leave them out. That's right, I forgot we're going to shuffle anyway. So does that make sense as far as placement?
Yep.
And then you pick one of your units and you place it in the newly discovered region. So you either have to get there by sea for a ship or by land with your citizen. And you can't use a sea convoy for migration, which means I can't put... I mean, in this case I could because it's right next to it, but I can't bounce on a ship. Like, you will be able to do that later.
Okay.
It has to be legit that they can connect by land.
Okay.
So if I place an island there, I couldn't hop from him onto the island. It wouldn't work. In migration, there are times where you can do that, though. But exploration, you can't. If you cannot place your new hexagon, your exploration fails, and you kind of lose the action.
Okay.
If it's successful, however, you get an exploration token like before.
Yeah.
If that pile becomes empty, you immediately get another action disc. And then you choose a resource among your resources that goes to the domestic market first. If there's only one resource, that's it. It goes to the domestic market. If there's multiple resources, you get to pick a second resource to go behind your shield. So it's just like the first thing. And then we're going to increase the population. Increase the surplus workers based on huts. We don't increase the population because you simply move some of your population. Reproduction, which is the baby model. You can only do reproduction once per player per turn. That's why it's there like that. Because you're getting busy. It takes some time. Right. You can only do your reproduction or on a region where you have at least 2 citizens. You add a citizen of your color. And then the population marker goes up. Okay. Rebels do not reproduce. However, active, engaged citizens can reproduce. What that means is if this dude's harvesting, he can take a lunch break. Wife shows up with some wine. You know, hey, you're working too hard. So even though they're engaged, he's doing something, he can still reproduce. But if he's rebelling, he's not interested in reproducing.
He's literally as upset about having sex as he is about anything else.
It's not that. He's too busy coercing with other folks about how he's going to kill you. So when he's no longer rebelling, then he's kind of happy again. He's like, well, I don't have to spend my time in the basement hiding from you, planning the Underground Railroad. I can just, get busy and have some kids. Yeah. So if they're engaged in activity, they can reproduce. If they're rebelling, they cannot. If they're neither rebelling or engaging in activity, they can. Make sense? A player can never control more than 10 citizens of his color, which I think we only have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we only have 10. So you can never control more. And you cannot reproduce in a region where you already have 3. Whether they're active or rebel doesn't matter. It's just overpopulated. Yeah. Then there's recruitment, which is the ponytail dude up there. You can recruit as many workers as you wish for a single action as long as you can pay for them and place them. So the recruitment cost for a worker is shown on the surplus workers board that's on the left. Aaron will probably have to read them to most of us because... but, like, for example, if we only have 1 or 2 surplus workers, they cost 4 money each. But, essentially, excuse me, you take as many meeples of your color from the reserve as the number of workers recruited, and you place them on land areas in regions of your choice where you already have at least 1 active unit or engaged engaged or not.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot place them in regions where you only have 3 because that 3 citizen limit is limiting of your workers as well.
Mm-hmm.
You lower the surplus workers marker by that number of workers recruited. And you increase the population marker by the same number because they actually join the general population. So you can actually gain population by both breeding in a turn and paying for surplus workers if you have the money to do both.
Yeah. Okay.
Make sense? Yeah. That's one way to get past the only can breed once. Well, you can breed, but you can hire workers too.
Yeah.
With migration, you can move all of your active non-engaged units. And what that means is if I have chosen harvesting and I've already put that person here, he's engaged, he can't move. But if I migrate, I can kind of be like, well, this guy's going to go over here and look for other things.
Okay.
You can move into an adjacent region, or it can move to an unoccupied building in the same region that you're in. So if I had migrated this turn with him, and I can migrate again, which I think you can do migration more than once for sure. Let me make sure I'm not lying. Yep, it's unlimited. So if I had 2 action discs, I could move here. In that case where Aaron had a town here, maybe he moved his guy off, I can be like, no.
Or it turned rebel.
Yep, or if he turned rebel. I could literally migrate in, use my other migrate action to take over the town.
Okay.
That's one way you can do that. Very rarely are you going to see an empty town, but it does happen. Ships move by sea and cannot enter land areas, but they can migrate as well. So you can move a ship into an area, which helps if you want to use exploration later too, because you can have your ship there and you can then put your tile where you need to. Citizens must move by land, of course, unless they're transported by ships of the same player. So in this case, let's say I had a ship here and there was another tile here. I could take my dude, travel by ship to the other tile.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Remember, you can't do that while exploring to place the tile because there's nothing there yet.
Right,
You
but
just
you
sit on
can,
the
but
ship
you
and
can
do
do
it.
it when they're migrating.
When they know and they've navigated, they've mapped it, they know how to get there, they're willing to take you is how they kind
Fair
of figure
enough.
that out.
Makes sense.
So hopefully that makes
Basically,
sense.
there's now commercial travel between there and
Literally.
Yeah.
Yep, as long as your ship's still there. If you move your ship for any other reason, sorry, they can't fly around the globe.
Right.
It takes too long, but that's one way you can do it.
And migration literally only lets them move 1 space?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you have to do 2. So, for example, if the boat was there...
Well, no, you move to another tile. So in this case, if I was migrating, I could use that ship to go to here.
Yeah,
it's considered one move.
So if there's a bunch of connected tiles, you could move your ship as long as it was a legal movement across all of the tiles to get to somewhere.
So you literally just move to a spot.
Yes.
It's not that it's 1 space, it's just a spot.
Correct.
That you can reach based on
You go
pathing.
from one tile to another tile, and you're going to stop on your destination. So you can't stop on the ship.
Right.
So you're just bouncing to the tile you're going to stop to. That is one migration action.
Right.
If I wanted to go further and I had 2 ships, I could bounce on the 2 ships to the tile I'm going to end up on.
Okay.
And that's one migration.
But you couldn't do that by land. So, like, you couldn't walk from where you... Like, so for if that one's there...
Let's say
there's another land here. Could you go to that land tile, or do you have to stop at the next?
Okay.
No.
So you can use the
land
ships as
travel.
bounce.
Yeah.
The ships, it's called a sea convoy. You can do a sea convoy, but you cannot convoy by land.
Okay.
I can't remember what other game that's a thing. I know there's a thing in another game.
Tales of the Arabian Nights.
Yeah.
Is it Tales of the Arabian Nights? No.
No. There's something where that's another similar...
We were just talking about it. Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
It's Game of Thrones, yeah.
Okay.
Game of Thrones is actually even better. Because
Well, yeah,
you
yeah.
can do a lot of other stuff with those ships too.
Really fun game.
We are going to play it. I just, I was worried it would be a little bit long, and I want to read through the Feast of Crows expansion a little bit more to understand it, because with 4 players, there's often an advantage for whoever's in the south.
Yeah.
But the Feast of Crows fixes that.
That's appropriate.
Well, I mean, it's just in the south. If you have for your players, you just have a token that you have to beat. There's no army, and as soon as you get the control of it, like literally, like Rob won in like 20 minutes because nobody was fighting him, and I was literally the Starks. I'm running down there to try to stop him, and nobody else did. And so he's like, "Oh, I got all my strongholds. I win." It took me 40 minutes to explain the game and 20 minutes for him to win.
Wow.
So, but the Feast of Crows expansion helps prevent that. Doesn't prevent it completely, but it helps mitigate it. So I need to read through that now that I have it, and we will be playing that game because that game is awesome. I love that game. I'm terrible at it, but I'm terrible at everything. So, so that's migration. And again, the 3-person limit exists in there too. It's 3 of your own citizens. So like Aaron can have 3 people, yeah, I can have 3 people. We just can't.
Right. You can't have
have
3
more of your own.
more. Yeah.
And then there's construction. You can build a town, a market, a port, or a temple. The price of them and the resources they take are right on the left here. So if I want to build a ship, it's going to cost me 1 wood and 1 Florian. If I want to build a town, it's going to cost me 1 stone, 1 wood, and 2 Florians. And you place it. place it in the region that you have control of. You have to have at least one active, non-engaged citizen in order to be able to build it.
Right,
so
because I'm assuming you move him to that spot.
You do, yeah, because they're essentially constructing it. So if I had this, I can't do it because my boat's not a citizen.
Right.
These guys are too busy to be part of a construction and a move. Excuse me. If you're building a port, you need a ship of your color. Kind of free, not doing anything. So if your ship's fishing, it's not going to go to port. You can only have one construction of each type per region. So you can't have 2 towns and 1 tile. You can have 1 town, 1 port, a market, and a temple if you want to, but you can't have 2 temples. And of course, construction is limited by the number of building tokens available. So if we build up all of the temples, you can't do it anymore. Now, once you've paid your construction cost, you place your token representing the construction on the region. So I will give you one of those and you can place it. And then you put your, of course, if it's town, temple, or market, it's placed on a land area, not covering any resource icons, and port tokens are placed on the water in contact with part of the coastline. So you get to choose. It doesn't matter a whole lot, but just as far as aesthetics, you can put where it goes. And then the unit that performed the construction is placed on that token. That unit is now considered engaged. That includes your ship. So even though your ship isn't going to stay at port forever, you would place it on the port. It can't then take an action to fish.
Makes sense. Yep.
And instead of building a building, you can build a ship. And you can you build it by an active, non-engaged citizen. So you do have to have an active, non-engaged citizen to do it. And then the ship is just placed in the sea. You do not have to have a port to build a ship. You just have to have an active, non-engaged citizen. And so in this case, I can't build a ship, but if she wasn't doing anything, she can then build a ship. And so you want to be careful because I can literally, if I had a harvest action for wood, I can wait. Well, no, I can't because I have to place it.
Yeah.
So it won't matter. But, yep. And then you control the building if you have at least 1 active unit on that building. If the unit leaves the building is no longer controlled. And the first unit that comes to it during a migration, even if it's an opponent's unit, takes control of the building. That includes ports. So if you ever move your ship out of dock, someone else can dock there and take over the port. Which sometimes is good. Each port gives its controlling player the opportunity to perform 2 transactions on the export market. So instead of just 1, you get 2.
Okay.
And you don't use action discs. You just put the money in the port. So you can use 1 port or market during each of your rounds. To do so, you spend 1 Florian from your screen on the action wheel in the port zone, matching your colors. So see how there's different colors there?
Yeah.
I would just put a money on there. So I would put it on one of the boats, or in the market I would put on one of the tents. And each controlled port can be used once and only once during the entire actions phase. Therefore, a player controlling 2 ports could use each port once for a total of 2 Florians. And then that money you just take the money off and it goes to the bank so you can keep track of how many times you've done it. And then the unit using the advantages provided by the port becomes engaged. You put it on the port. So it can't also fish, for example, if it's a ship. If it's a meeple, they can't also harvest. Markets work very similarly, but they give you you can use the 2 transactions on the domestic market instead of the export. So you can do 2 transactions on your domestic market in addition to your action that you do with your action disc. And it works exactly the same way. You place your Florians if you have multiple markets. Remember, you have to have markets to do this. That's why I'm explaining it. If I want to use that market stall and I don't have a market, Aaron's going to be like, what are you doing? You can't do that. You don't have a market. You're not using it. But if you do have the building, then you do it. And then same thing. Put a citizen on there to do the action. Make sense?
Yep.
And then, of course, towns give the player control of the region. And you control all other buildings in that region.
Yeah. So don't build a stall and have someone else's meeple sitting in the area because they can just build the town. And be like, now I have your building.
Yes, build your town first. Put your dude in there, and then you build your market and use your market. Same thing if you build a market in a town and you somehow lose your meeple in the town, somebody takes over, they now control your market. Oh, if a player uses advantages of a port or market from the town, the citizen controlling the town becomes engaged. So they can't do any other things, which you wouldn't want to move them anyway, honestly. Town also provides control of all resources in that region. If the other players wish to harvest, they must ask for permission. And that's where you get kind of negotiations going.
Yep.
And then... If the end of a resolution of crisis, if a unit belonging to the player that originally controlled the town or port or market becomes a rebel, another player in that region can choose a migration to take over that area because those guys won't stand up until the following turn.
Okay.
With temples, you can... a citizen on a temple is never laid on his back during the resolution of a crisis. In addition, during the resolution of a crisis, when it's the turn of the player controlling the temple, this player may choose to stand any desired number of citizens present in the temple's region up for free, of his color and other players' colors. Which is nice.
So if you have a temple, you're just like, no, heathens, stand back up.
You just go out and you give them food and water and they're happy. They love you. Alright, and then I think we already talked about kind of... Sea inlets are sort of like maps where you might have another land. That's one way to continue land further off. And then after that, after all those actions are done, the last thing is evolution cards purchase. And we should always have 5 cards in here, unless I don't think you can run out of cards.
No, I don't think you can.
But starting with the first player and in order of play, you have 2 things that you can do. You must do one of them.
Okay.
You either purchase a card. The price is whatever the arrow is pointing to. So this card costs 2. This card costs 5, 2, 9, 3. Okay. We'll go through these before we start our first turn. We'll go through what these cards do. So that, one, the folks watching will know, and also you'll have an idea of what you'll want to do as far as placing your things. Okay. You can either purchase one card and rotate one of the remaining cards, and you rotate them clockwise, or you rotate 2 different cards. And what that means by rotating, if I chose this one to rotate, I'm going to do this. So now it costs 3. This one will become 5. Some things become cheaper as you rotate them. Most become more expensive.
Okay.
And if they start expensive, they get cheaper.
Yeah. So you can choose to rotate 2, or you can buy one and rotate 1. And then the cost of the card will change going up or down. We already know that. Once you pay the cost, you get the card immediately, and you can start using it on subsequent turns where you can choose to use a card or play 1 action token. And you can rotate a card that already has been rotated. So if I rotate a card, Aaron can choose to rotate it again. If it ever hits the skull, it gets removed from the board. Okay. So it can't be purchased anymore. And then anytime we lose a card, we put a new one out, which is one way to get rid of horrible crisis. If, as a result of drawing a card, the next card on the top of the deck includes a red zone, that's where these red cards come into play, we have to resolve that crisis immediately. So that's a way where crises might come up later in the turn.
Okay.
And then that's it. And then we go to the next phase. So what I'm going to do is just double check and make sure that that is, whoever has most iron.
And then people can look and see what their
thing is. Yeah.
I have no idea.
And then, so this one, the benefactor card, nope. I guess it is. It doesn't actually say. Oh, benefactor is the other one that there's, oh, we don't have the benefactor trend card. We don't have to worry about it. So I guess it's going to be most iron. Oh, here it is. Iron objective. Yep. So, yep, if it's the most iron, then that will give you the points based on this one. And then these are the short game objectives right here. I'm just going to look at mine real quick.
So I just want to be clear on this one. So if you're here, you're reproducing your own people, so it just pops another one out if you got 2 unengaged. Here, you're buying one of those guys, right?
Yes, but you still put your own color.
You still put your own color, but you're basically you're
buying
acquiring.
surplus.
So technically, you could, in theory, get 2 people around. Just one of them would be there.
You get multiple.
More money.
Or if you have more money. Well, do you have to...
You can buy as many as you have money for forward on these guys.
On one action?
On one action.
Oh.
So if you have enough money to buy 4, go for it.
Okay.
Because eventually they're going to get pretty cheap.
Right.
Well, they get cheap because...
But then they get angry.
Yeah, they get angry as they get cheap.
Right.
Then they get mad. Alright, I'm trying to find my... Okay, here we go. Alright, so I know my win condition, like what causes the end of the game, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, I know what mine is. It's all the ones on the top.
Yep. I don't even look at my card. I know exactly what it looks like.
It took me a second to find mine because I had something similar on there. But I think I was looking at the wrong row.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
I take my stuff back.
Okay. So that's what I thought it was. Alright, and then... That's what I thought it was as well. Okay, good to know that my brain works.
It's always nice.
Mine was a bit awkward.
Well, mine is awkward.
Okay. But not...
Not as bad.
As you explain the game, I'm like, this makes the most sense for it to be
See how this game takes a long time to explain? There's so many options, but
and then
honestly,
once we know what to do,
it's super easy. The game is a very simple game. It's just the action wheel. That's what most people they don't complain about it. They just say, that's where the challenge
is. Comes from.
Because
I just want to look and
make
sure I did actually.
We'll probably be looking at this multiple times too because of these things.
Doesn't make sense to take first tiles that are all landlocked, though, does it?
It depends on what comes out.
You're last,
so you get a
so
bigger
you might
choice.
actually have the ability to use landlocked tiles.
Oh, really?
Well,
no, you can't because
I have to be able to move a ship. Like I said, there's literally no point for your initial tile to be a landlocked tile.
Yeah, it's impossible for it to be a landlocked.
You're right. My bad.
I'm just I'm understanding the ruling, right?
No, you got it.
Okay. As long as that's good, then I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, keep that because we'll probably use it again.